This is my letter to the world that never wrote to me, the simple news that nature told with tender majesty. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see. For love of her, sweet countrymen, judge tenderly of me. The soul selects her own society, then shuts the door to her divine majority, present no more. Unmoved, she notes the chariots pausing at her low gate. Unmoved, an emperor be kneeling upon her mat. I've known her from an ample nation choose one, then close the valves of her attention like stone. Pain has an element of blank. It cannot recollect when it begun, or if there were a time when it was not. It has no future but itself. Its infinite contain its past, enlightened to perceive new periods of pain. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches on the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public like a frog to tell your name the livelong June to an admiring bog. Mr. Higginson, are you too deeply occupied to say if my verse is alive? The mind is so near itself it cannot see distinctly, and I have none to ask. Should you think it breathed, and had you the leisure to tell me, I should feel quick gratitude. If I make the mistake that you dared to tell me would give me sincerer honor toward you, I enclose my name, asking you, if you please, sir, to tell me what is true. That you will not betray me, it is needless to ask, since honor is its own pawn. I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time. The steeples swam in amethyst, the news like squirrels ran. The hills untied their bonnets, the bobolinks begun. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. But how he set, I know not. There seemed a purple stile that little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while, till when they reached the other side, a dominie in grey put gently up the evening bars and led the flock away. I cautious scanned my little life. I winnowed what would fade from what would last, till heads like mine should be a dreaming laid. I put the latter in a barn, the former blew away. I went one winter morning, and lo, my priceless hay was not upon the scaffold, was not upon the beam, and from a thriving farmer a cynic I became. Whether a thief did it, whether it was the wind, whether deities guiltless, my business is to find, So I begin to ransack. How is it, hearts, with thee? Art thou within the little barn love provided thee? If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by with half a smile and half a spurn, as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months in balls and put them each in separate drawers until their time befalls. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain, when this life was out, that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and take eternity. But now, uncertain of the length of this that is between, it goads me like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. My river runs to thee, blue sea, wilt welcome me? My river waits reply, O sea, look graciously. I'll fetch thee brooks from spotted nooks. Say, sea, take me. Mr. Higginson, your kindness claimed earlier gratitude, but I was ill, and write today from my pillow. Thank you for the surgery. It was not so painful as I supposed. I bring you others as you ask, though they might not differ. While my thought is undressed, I can make the distinction, but when I put them in the gown, they look alike and numb. You asked how old I was. I made no verse, but one or two, until this winter, sir. I had a terror since September. I could tell no one, and so I sing, as the boy does by burying ground, because I am afraid. You inquire my books. For poets, I have Keats and Mr. and Mrs. Browning. For prose, Mr. Ruskin, Sir Thomas Browne, and the Revelations. I went to school, but in your manner of the phrase, had no education. When a little girl, I had a friend who taught me immortality, but venturing too near himself, he never returned. Soon after, my tutor died, and for several years my lexicon was my only companion. Then I found one more, but he was not contented I be his scholar, so he left the land. You ask of my companions. Hills, sir, and the sundown, and a dog large as myself that my father bought me. They are better than beans, because they know but do not tell. And the noise in the pool at noon excels my piano. I have a brother and sister. My mother does not care for thought, and father too busy with his briefs to notice what we do. He buys me many books, but begs me not to read them, because he fears they joggle the mind. They are religious, except me, and address an eclipse every morning, whom they call their father. But I fear my story fatigues you. I would like to learn. Could you tell me how to grow? Or is it unconveyed, like melody or witchcraft? You speak of Mr. Whitman. I never read his book, but was told that he was disgraceful. I read Miss Prescott's Circumstance, but it followed me in the dark, so I avoided her. 2 editors of journals came to my father's house this winter and asked me for my mind, and when I asked them why, they said I was penurious, and they would use it for the world. I could not weigh myself. My size felt small to me. I read your chapters in the Atlantic and experienced honor for you. I was sure you would not reject a confiding question. Is this, sir, what you asked me to tell you? Your friend, E. Dickinson. I reason, earth is short, and anguish absolute, and many hurt. But what of that? I reason we could die. The best vitality cannot excel decay. But what of that? I reason that in heaven somehow it will be even, some new equation given. But what of that? I never lost as much but twice, and that was in the sod. Twice have I stood a beggar before the door of God. Angels, twice descending, reimbursed my store. Burglar, banker, father, I am poor once more. It is Sunday now, John, and all have gone to church. The wagons have done passing, and I have come out in the new grass to listen to the anthems. 3 or 4 hens have followed me, and we sit side by side. And while they crow and whisper, I'll tell you what I see today, and what I would that you saw. You remember the crumbling wall that divides us from Mr. Sweetser, and the crumbling elms and evergreens and other crumbling things that spring and fade and cast their bloom within a simple 12-month. Well, they are here, and skies on me fairer far than Italy in blue eye look down, up, see, away, a league from here, on the way to heaven. And here are robins just got home, and giddy crows, and jays, and will you trust me as I live, here's a bumblebee, not such as summer brings, John, earnest, manly bees, but a kind of a cockney, dressed in jaunty clothes. Much that is gay have I to show, if you were here with me, John, upon this April grass. Then there are sadder features, here and there, wings half gone to dust that fluttered so last year, a mouldering plume, an empty house in which a bird resided, where last year's flies their errand ran, and last year's crickets fell. We too are flying, fading, John, and the song here lies, soon upon the lips that live us now, will have hummed and ended. Thank you for your letter, John. Glad I was to get it, and gladder had I got them both, and glad indeed to see if in your heart another lies bound one day to me, mid your momentous cares. Pleasant to know that Lang Syne has its own place, that nook and cranny still retain their accustomed guest, and when busier cares and dustier days and cobwebs less unfrequent shut what was away, still, as a ballad hummed and lost, remember, early friend, and drop a tear, if a troubadour that strain may chance to sing. I died for beauty, but was scarce adjusted in the tomb, when one who died for truth was lain in an adjoining room. He questioned softly why I failed. For beauty, I replied, and I for truth. Themself are one, we brethren are, he said. And so, as kinsmen met a night, we talked between the rooms, until the moss had reached our lips and covered up our names. There came a wind like a bugle. It quivered through the grass, and a green chill upon the heat so ominous did pass. We barred the windows and the doors, as from an emerald ghost, the doom's electric moccasin that very instant passed. On a strange mob of panting trees, and fences fled away, and rivers where the houses ran, those look that lived that day. The bell within the steeple wild the flying tidings told, how much can come and much can go, and yet abide the world. Safe in their alabaster chambers, untouched by morning and untouched by noon, sleep the meek members of the resurrection, rafter of satin and roof of stone. Light laughs the breeze in her castle above them, babbles the bee in a stolid ear, pipe the sweet birds in ignorant cadence. Ah, what sagacity perished here! Grand go the years in the crescent above them. Worlds scoop their arcs and firmaments row. Diadems drop and doges surrender, soundless as dots on a disk of snow. I years had been from home, and now before the door I dared not enter, lest a face I never saw before stare stolid into mine and ask my business there. My business. But a life I left, was such remaining there? I leaned upon the awe I lingered with before. The second like an ocean rolled and broke against my ear. I laughed a crumbling laugh, that I could fear adore who consternation compassed and never winced before. I fitted to the latch my hand with trembling care, lest back the awful door should spring and leave me in the floor. Then moved my fingers off as cautiously as glass, and held my ears, and like a thief fled gasping from the house. Love is anterior to life, posterior to death, initial of creation, and the exponent of breath. What if you are writing? Oh, for the power to look! Yet were I there, I would not, except you invited me, reverence for each other being the sweet aim. I have written you, dear, so many notes since receiving one. It seems like writing a note to the sky, yearning and replyless. But prayer has not an answer, and yet how many pray? While others go to church, I go to mine, for are you not my church, and have we not a hymn that no one knows but us? I hope your thanksgiving was not too lonely, though if it were a little, affection must not be displeased. Sue sent me a lovely bouquet of fruit, which I sent to a dying Irish girl in our neighborhood. That was my thanksgiving. Those that die seem near me because I lose my own. Not all my own, thank God. A darling own remains more darling than I name. The month in which our mother died closed its drama Thursday, and I cannot conjecture a form of space without her timid face. Speaking to you as I feel, dear, without that dress of spirit must be worn for most, courage is quite changed. Your sorrow was in winter, one of ours in June, and the other November, and my clergyman passed from earth in spring, but sorrow brings its own chill. Seasons do not warm it. You said with love timidity in asking me to your dear home, you would try not to make it unpleasant. So delicate a diffidence, how beautiful to see. I do not think a girl extant has so divine a modesty. You even call me to your breast with apology. Of what must my poor heart be made, that the one for whom modesty is felt himself should feel it sweetest and ask his own with such a grace is beloved reproach. The tender priest of hope need not allure his offering, 'tis on his altar ere he asks. I hope you wear your furs today. Those and the love of me will keep you sweetly warm, though the day is bitter. The love I feel for you, I mean your own for me, a treasure I still keep. I cannot live with you. It would be life, and life is over there behind the shelf the sexton keeps the key to, putting up our life, his porcelain, like a cup discarded of the housewife, quaint or broke. A newer Sèvres pleases, old ones crack. I could not die with you, for one must wait to shut the other's gaze down. You could not, and could I stand by and see you freeze without my right of frost, death's privilege? Nor could I rise with you, because your face would put out Jesus, that new grace glow plain and foreign on my homesick eye, except that you than he shone closer by. They judge us. How? For you served heaven, you know, or sought to. I could not, because you saturated sight, and I had no more eyes for sordid excellence's paradise. And were you lost, I would be, though my name rang loudest on the heavenly fame. And were you saved, and I condemned to be where you were not, that self were hell to me. So we must meet apart, you there, I here, with just the door ajar that oceans are, and prayer, and that white sustenance, despair. My life closed twice before its close. It yet remains to see if immortality unveil a third event to me, so huge, so hopeless to conceive, as these that twice befell. Parting is all we know of heaven, and all we need of hell. I never saw a moor, I never saw the sea, yet know I how the heather looks, and what a wave must be. I never spoke with God, nor visited in heaven, yet certain am I of the spot as if the chart were given. To fight aloud is very brave, but gallanter I know, who charge within the bosom, the cavalry of woe, who win and nations do not see, who fall and none observe, whose dying eyes no country regards with patriot love. We trust in plumed procession, for such the angels go, rank after rank, with even feet and uniforms of snow. Dear friends, I write to you, I receive no letter. I say, they dignify my trust. I do not disbelieve, I go again. Cardinals wouldn't do it. Cockneys wouldn't do it, but I can't stop to strut in a world where bells toll. I hear, through visitor in town, that Mrs. Holland is not strong. The little peacock in me tells me not to inquire again. Then I remember my tiny friend, how brief she is, how dear she is, and the peacock quite dies away. Now you need not speak, for perhaps you are weary, and Herod requires all your thoughts. But if you are well, let Annie draw me a little picture of an erect flower. If you are ill, she can hang the flower a little on one side. Then I shall understand, and you need not stop to write me a letter. Perhaps you laugh at me. Perhaps the whole United States are laughing at me too. Well, I can't stop for that. My business is to love. I found a bird this morning down on a little bush at the foot of the garden, and wherefore sing, I said, since nobody hears. One sob in the throat, one flutter of bosom. My business is to sing, and away she rose. How do I know but cherubim, once themselves as patient, listened and applauded her unnoticed hymn, Emily. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children played at wrestling in a ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice but a mound. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. A toad can die of light. Death is the common right of toads and men, of earl and midge the privilege. Why swagger then? The gnat's supremacy is large as thine. Dear friend, your sweet self-reprehension makes us look within, which is so wild a place we are soon dismayed. But the seed sown in the lake bears the liquid flower, and so of all your words. I am glad you accept rest. Too many disdain it. I'm glad you go to the Adirondacks. To me the name is home-like. For one of my lost went every year with an Indian guide before the woods were broken. Had you been here, it would be sweet. But that, like the peach, is later. With a tomorrow in its cupboard, who would be an hungered? Men are picking the grass from father's meadow to lay it away for winter, and it takes them a long time. They bring 3 horses of their own, but Dick, ever gallant, offers to help, and bears a little machine like a top which spins the grass away. It seems very much like a gentleman getting his own supper. For what is his supper winter nights but tumblers of clover? You speak of disillusion. That is one of the few subjects on which I am an infidel. Life is so strong a vision that not one of it shall fail. Not what the stars have done, but what they are to do is what detains the sky. We shall watch for the promised words from the Adirondacks, and hope the recess will all be joy. To have been made alive is so chief a thing. All else inevitably adds. Were it not riddled by partings, it were too divine. I was never certain that mother had died, except while the students were singing. The voices came from another life. Good night, dear. Excuse me for staying so long. I love to come to you, to one who creates or consoles thought. What an obligation. Emily. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for that last onset when the king be witnessed in the room. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portion of me be assignable, and then there interposed a fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me. And then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see. I like to see it lap the miles and lick the valleys up and stop to feed itself at tanks, and then prodigious step around a pile of mountains, and supercilious peer in shanties by the sides of roads, and then a quarry pair to fit its sides, and crawl between, complaining all the while in horrid hooting stanza, then chase itself downhill and neigh like Boanerges. Then prompter than a star, stop, docile and omnipotent, at its own stable door. Dear cousins, did you know there had been a fire here, and that but for a whim of the wind, Austin and Vinny and Emily would all have been homeless? But perhaps you saw the Republican. We were waked by the ticking of the bells. The bells tick in Amherst for a fire to tell the firemen. I sprang to the window, and each side of the curtain saw that awful sun. The moon was shining high at the time, and the birds singing like trumpets. Vinny came soft as a moccasin. Don't be afraid, Emily. It is only the 4th of July. I did not tell that I saw it, for I thought if she felt it best to deceive, it must be that it was. She took hold of my hand and led me into Mother's room. Mother had not waked, and Maggie was sitting by her. Vinny left us a moment, and I whispered to Maggie and asked her what it was. Only Stebbins' barn, Emily, but I knew that the right and left of the village was on the arm of Stebbins' barn. I could hear buildings falling, and oil exploding, and people walking and talking gaily, and cannon soft as velvet from parishes that did not know that we were burning up. And so much lighter than day was it, that I saw a caterpillar measure a leaf far down in the orchard, and Vinny kept saying bravely, "It's only the 4th of July." It seemed like a theatre, or a night in London, or perhaps like chaos, the innocent dew falling as if it thought no evil, and sweet frogs prattling in the pools as if there were no earth. At 7, people came to tell us that the fire was stopped by throwing sound houses in as one fills a well. Mother never waked, and we were all grateful. We knew she would never buy needle and thread at Mr. Cutler's store. And if it were Pompeii, nobody could tell her. Vinny's only the 4th of July, I shall always remember. I think she will tell us so when we die, to keep us from being afraid. Footlights cannot improve the grave, only immortality. Forgive me the personality, but I thought, our peril was yours. Love for you each, Emily. Before I got my eye put out, I liked as well to see as other creatures that have eyes and know no other way. But were it told to me today that I might have the sky for mine, I tell you that my heart would split for size of me. The meadows mine, the mountains mine, all forests, stintless stars, as much of noon as I could take between my finite eyes, the motions of the dipping birds, the morning's amber road, for mine to look at when I liked. The news would strike me dead. So safer guess, with just my soul upon the window pane, where other creatures put their eyes, incautious of the sun. To make a prairie, it takes a clover and one bee, one clover and a bee, and reverie. The reverie alone will do if bees are few. A narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. You may have met him, did you not? His notice sudden is. The grass divides as with a comb. A spotted shaft is seen, and then it closes at your feet and opens further on. He likes a boggy acre, a floor too cool for corn. Yet when a child and barefoot I more than once at morn have passed, I thought, a whiplash, unbraiding in the sun. When stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. Several of nature's people I know, and they know me. I feel for them a transport of cordiality, but never met this fellow, attended or alone, without a tighter breathing and zero at the bone. Dear did, atmospherically, it was the most beautiful Christmas on record. The hens came to the door with Santa Claus, and the pussies washed themselves in the open air without chilling their tongues. And Santa Claus himself, sweet old gentleman, was even gallanter than usual. Visitors from the chimney were a new dismay, but all of them brought their hands so full and behaved so sweetly, only a churl could have turned them away. And then the ones at the barn were so happy. Maggie gave her hens a check for potatoes, and each of the cats a gilt-edged bone, and the horses had both new blankets from Boston. Do you remember dark-eyed Mr. Dickinson, who used to shake your hand when it was so little it hardly had a stem? He too had a beautiful gift of roses from a friend away. It was a lovely Christmas. Please give my love to your father and mother, and the lantern brother, and the lad unknown. But what made you remember me? Tell me with a kiss, or is it a secret? A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass, and then hopped sidewise to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all abroad. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head like one in danger. Cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rode him softer home than oars divide the ocean, too silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of noon leap plashless as they swim. What soft, cherubic creatures these gentle women are. One would as soon assault a plush or violate a star. Such dimity convictions, a horror so refined of freckled human nature, of deity ashamed. It's such a common glory, a fisherman's degree. Redemption, brittle lady, be so ashamed of thee. I taste a liquor never brewed from tankards scooped in pearl. Not all the vats upon the Rhine yield such an alcohol. Inebriate of air am I, and debauchee of dew, reeling through endless summer days, from inns of molten blue, when landlords turn the drunken bee out of the foxglove's door, when butterflies renounce their drams, I shall but drink the more, till seraphs swing their snowy hats and saints to windows run to see the little tippler leaning against the sun. Besides, the autumn poets sing a few prosaic days, a little this side of the snow and that side of the haze, a few incisive mornings, a few ascetic eves. Gone Mr. Bryan's goldenrod and Mr. Thompson's sheaves. Still is the bustle in the brook, sealed are the spicy valves, mesmeric fingers softly touch the eyes of many elves. Perhaps a squirrel may remain my sentiments to share. Grant me, O Lord, a sunny mind, thy windy will to bear. The heart asks pleasure first, and then excuse from pain, and then those little anodynes that deaden suffering, and then to go to sleep, and then, if it should be the will of its inquisitor, the privilege to die. The sky is low, the clouds are mean. A traveling flake of snow across a barn or through a rut debates if it will go. A narrow wind complains all day how someone treated him. Nature, like us, is sometimes caught without her diadem. There's a certain slant of light on winter afternoons that oppresses like the weight of cathedral tunes. Heavenly hurt it gives us. We can find no scar, but internal difference where the meanings are. None may teach it anything. 'Tis the seal, despair, an imperial affliction sent us of the air. When it comes, the landscape listens. Shadows hold their breath. When it goes, 'tis like the distance on the look of death. Dear Sue, the vision of immortal life has been fulfilled. How simply at the last the fathom comes. The passenger and not the sea we find surprises us. Gilbert rejoiced in secrets. His life was panting with them. With what menace of light, he cried, "Don't tell Aunt Emily." Now my ascended playmate must instruct me. Show us, prattling preceptor, but the way to thee. He knew no niggard moment. His life was full of boon. The playthings of the dervish were not so wild as his. No crescent was his creature. He travelled from the full, such soar, but never set. I see him in the star, and meet his sweet velocity in everything that flies. His life was like the bugle, which winds itself away, his elegy an echo, his requiem ecstasy. Dawn and meridian in one. Wherefore would he wait, wronged only of night, which he left for us? Without a speculation our little Ajax spans the whole. Pass to thy rendezvous of light, pangless except for us, who slowly ford the mystery which thou hast leapt across. Emily. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro kept treading, till it seemed that sense was breaking through. And when they all were seated, a service like a drum kept beating, till I thought my mind was going numb. And then I heard them lift a box and creak across my soul with those same boots of lead again. Then space began to toll, as all the heavens were a bell, and being but an ear, and I and silence some strange race, wrecked, solitary here. And then a plank in reason broke, and I dropped down, and hit a world at every plunge, and finished knowing then. Sweet friend, I hope you brought your open fire with you, else your confiding nose has ere this been nipped. 3 dazzling winter nights have wrecked the budding gardens, and the bobolink stand as still in the meadow as if they had never danced. I hope your heart has kept you warm. Should I say your hearts, for you are yet a banker. Death cannot plunder half so fast as fervor can re-earn. We had one more Memorial Day to whom to carry blossoms. Gilbert had lilies of the valley, and father and mother damson hawthorn. When it shall come my turn, I want a buttercup. Doubtless the grass will give me one, for does she not revere the whims of her flitting children? I was with you in all the loneliness when you took your flight, for every jostling of the spirit barbs the loss afresh. Even the coming out of the sun after an hour's rain intensifies their absence. Ask some kind voice to read to you Mark Antony's oration over his playmate Caesar. I never knew a broken heart to break itself so sweet. After great pain, a formal feeling comes. The nerves sit ceremonious like tombs. The stiff heart questions, was it he that bore? And yesterday, or centuries before? The feet mechanical go round a wooden way of ground or air or aught, regardless groan, a quartz contentment like a stone. This is the hour of lead, remembered if outlived, as freezing persons recollect the snow. First chill, then stupor, then the letting go. I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior of doors, of chambers as the cedars, impregnable of eye, and for an everlasting roof, the gables of the sky, of visitors, the fairest, for occupation, this, the spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise.